She was playing here, and then she just disappeared. Only one police dog can find her.
The city had gone quiet. It was one of those late nights when the world seems to slow down, when the streets empty out, and the glow of the street lights feels almost lonely. Most of the people in the city were already home, resting after a long day. Cars had stopped passing by, and the distant noise of the city had faded into a calm silence. Inside the police station, the night shift was winding down. Computers were being shut off, one by one. Officers were grabbing their jackets, saying their goodnights, and heading out the door. But one officer was still sitting at his desk, Officer Jack Miller. A stack of reports sat in front of him, and he flipped through them slowly, trying to finish the last bit of paperwork before calling it a night. Every few seconds, though, he glanced down at the floor beside him, because lying there was his partner. Not a human partner. A large German shepherd with deep, intelligent eyes and a calm, steady presence. His name was Shadow. At first glance, Shadow looked relaxed, almost sleepy. But anyone who worked at the station knew better. Even when he appeared calm, his ears were always listening, catching the smallest sound. If Jack shifted in his chair, Shadow's head lifted immediately. Alert, ready. Jack used to laugh about it with the other officers. "Shadow isn't just my partner," he'd say with a grin. "He's basically my whole team." And honestly, it wasn't much of an exaggeration. For 3 years, the two of them had worked side by side. Shadow had tracked down suspects who thought they had disappeared into the night. He had helped locate missing hikers in the woods. More than once, he had found evidence that no human officer could have detected. In the department, people trusted Shadow. And Jack trusted him more than anyone. But neither of them knew that the quiet night ahead was about to become the most important night of their partnership. It was close to 11 when the silence inside the station suddenly broke. The emergency phone rang sharply. Jack reached for it immediately. "Officer Miller speaking." For a moment, all he could hear was breathing. Then a woman's voice, shaking, broken. Please help me. My daughter is missing."
Between quiet sobs, the woman explained.
I can't find her anywhere.
Her daughter, 7-year-old Emily, had been playing at the neighborhood park, just a short distance from their home. It was early evening, nothing unusual.
Emily!
But when her mother went to call her back, Emily was gone.
Emily, please!
No sign of her, no answer, just the empty park. Jack felt a heavy weight settle in his chest. A missing child at night was every officer's nightmare. He slowly placed the phone down. And then he looked at Shadow. Shadow was already standing. His ears were forward, his eyes focused on Jack, almost as if he understood that something serious had just happened. Within minutes, patrol cars were speeding toward the park. The flashing red and blue lights reflected off the empty swings and silent trees. Emily's mother stood near the entrance, her face pale, her eyes desperate. She looked at every officer who stepped out of a car, hoping one of them already had good news, but none of them did. In her trembling hands, she held a small pink scarf. Jack approached her gently. "Is this Emily's?" The woman nodded quickly. "She wore it tonight." Jack crouched beside Shadow. "All right, buddy," he said softly. "Let's find her." Shadow leaned forward and carefully sniffed the scarf, slowly, deeply. He was memorizing the scent. Then he lowered his nose to the ground. For several quiet moments, he moved slowly across the grass, back and forth, searching. And then suddenly, his body changed. His posture stiffened. He had the trail. Shadow began walking in one clear direction. Jack followed immediately. "Good boy," he whispered. "Show me." Near the edge of the park, Shadow stopped. He barked once, sharp. Jack stepped closer. Something small lay on the ground. A stuffed rabbit. Emily's mother gasped behind him. "That's hers. She carries it everywhere." Jack's jaw tightened. Emily had definitely been here, and she hadn't left by choice. Shadow picked up the scent again. This time, he moved faster. The trail led them away from the park and deeper into an older part of the city. The streets grew darker. Buildings stood abandoned and silent. Finally, Shadow stopped again, in front of an old warehouse. The large metal door hung crookedly from broken hinges, half open. The inside was completely dark. Jack turned to the officers behind him. "Stay sharp." They moved in carefully. The air inside smelled like rust and dust, like the place had been forgotten for years. Shadow suddenly froze. His ears shot straight up. Jack held his breath. Then he heard it, a tiny voice, barely louder than a whisper. "Mom?"
Help me.
Jack's heart jumped. That was Emily. Inside a small storage room, the little girl sat curled up on the floor. Two men stood nearby, clearly startled by the sudden arrival of the police. Jack quickly signaled the other officers to move in, but one of the men spotted Shadow. His eyes widened.
"Stay back! Shadow, go!"
"Police dog!" He ran. Shadow didn't wait for a command. In a flash, he launched forward. Within seconds, the man was on the ground. The second man tried to escape the other way, but Shadow was faster. He caught up, grabbed the man's arm firmly, and held him there until the officers arrived.
Secure.
Moments later, both men were in handcuffs. Jack rushed straight to Emily.
It's okay, I'm here.
Help me.
You're safe now.
She was shaking, her eyes wide with fear, but she was safe. Shadow slowly walked toward her. Emily looked at him for a second, studying the big dog who had just saved her. Then she wrapped her small arms around his neck. "Thank you, doggy." Jack couldn't help but smile. Later that night, Emily was reunited with her mother. The moment they saw each other, they ran into each other's arms. They held on tightly, both crying, both overwhelmed with relief. After a few minutes, Emily's mother walked over to Shadow. She knelt down and gently placed her hand on his head. "Thank you," she whispered, "for bringing my daughter home." A few days later, the police department held a small ceremony. Officers gathered together. Shadow stood proudly beside Jack. The police chief stepped forward, holding a medal of bravery. He carefully placed it around Shadow's neck. The room filled with applause. Jack leaned down and scratched behind Shadow's ears. "Good work, partner,"
Good work, partner.
he said quietly. Because that night, Shadow reminded everyone of something simple but powerful. Heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they walk on 4 legs.